Hello everyone, I am Tessellating Hexagons, and you don't need to worry about asking me to talk like an Englishman, because I am one. Yes, indeed, today I'm talking about the song for Eurovision that comes to us from the wildest of our wildcard countries. It's Georgia! It's Georgia! You never really know what they're gonna send next. I don't know where I'm going with this. Anyway, this year we have another familiar face, bearing in mind that Otto Nemsadze took part in the 2017 national final, which was eventually won by Tako Gaciladze, but that's yesterday's news. Similarly, this year's representative, Tornike Kipiani, also took part in that selection, and he came third last, but that's okay. His song from that year, You Are My Sunshine, walked so that his entry this year, Take Me As I Am, could run. And here it is, running all the way into Eurovision and participating, and yes. So the song is, I'd say, completely in English, almost completely in English, save for a couple of phrases in French, German, Spanish, and Italian, but not necessarily in that order for reasons, well, you'll hear it in the lyrics. Anyway, music and lyrics, funnily enough, by Tornike himself, as well as Aliko Berdzendishvili. I wish I could speak Georgian a bit better than I do, because it's complicated words and crazy letters, and I don't want to offend people. Calming down though, allow me to respond to this song kind of in kind. That is, Georgia has been unpredictable as usual, so I'll repay that with a weird comparison. So, have you ever seen a cat reacting to a cucumber? That's how I feel most of the fandom will react to this song. And it's how my inner feline reacted to the growl note in the "Why don't you love me?" like about halfway through. Still, speaking in very broad strokes here, this very much feels like this genre's answer to Belgium's song this year, and that is intended as a compliment to both. In both cases, we have an exemplary sample platter of the best that their respective styles have to offer, presented in a very potent soundscape that conveys the moods established by the lyrics, at the cost of being at least somewhat against the usual convention as far as lyrical structure is concerned. That's not a criticism by any means, that's just an observation of how the song is put together. And props to Georgia for their admittedly self-aware choice of subject matter. So, on that note, let's put a pin in that thought and go straight over to the instrumental arrangement instead. This song comes at us full force with a unique, hypnotic, attention-commanding soundscape that is so easy to just crank up to full volume and just lose yourself in. True to the message of the lyrics, it's not trying to be anything it's not looking to copy anything else, it's just standing on the stage and unleashing a load of power and emotion and just so much goodness that is impossible to ignore. And speaking of power and emotion, Tornike absolutely owns. I'm sorry, it keeps sounding like I'm saying Tornike, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to pronounce his name as best I can, and it keeps coming out wrong, but he owns both of those aspects in this song. The story the song tells is clearly a powerful one, and probably a personal one at that. You might even consider it to be allegorical for Georgia at the contest as a whole. You know, that both of their recent Georgian language entries have comparatively tanked in the semi-finals, whilst their safer offerings have been taken a bit more seriously, but I mean, Rebuttal, 2016, 2017, 2011, even their debut in 2007, but still, take it at face value, and it's something that Tornike probably has a massive personal stake in. In fact, I'd wager that a lot of people watching Eurovision can relate to this one. The song speaks of loving someone unconditionally, but in return, they keep asking for changes about things that, well, in their eyes, they're just small, little things. They want little quality of life improvements, just a little change, but to us, it's a request to sacrifice a massive part of our identity for a bit of cheap praise. Given the prevalence of the English language across Europe, and please, as a Brit, please blame America for that, we're sorry, okay? I'd imagine that a lot of people across the continent will resonate with that opening lyric alone. If English isn't your first language and you resent having to speak it at all because people don't understand you otherwise, I completely sympathize. I'm not like most Brits. I speak German and Spanish and Latin and Japanese, and goodness help me, I want to learn even more languages besides that. Now, I've already mentioned how Tornike brings that message to life by the timbre of his voice and composure, but let's not miss the forest for the trees here. He's a proficient vocalist across the board. The fact that he did so consistently well throughout Georgian Idol, which is how they chose him as a singer for Eurovision, it's proof positive that he can perform live, engage an audience, showcase a variety of vocal styles in so doing, And the growl note that I mentioned earlier, halfway through the song, it shows that he has a professionally stylized side as well. So he has all the tools necessary at his disposal to make this song come to life in a convincing, distinctive, attention-grabbing way in Rotterdam, and frankly, I'm here for it. Still though, I can totally see some people not vibing with this song, and that's fine too, I totally get it. For one thing, I compared it to Belgium earlier, and that holds true to this extent too. Much like with Release Me, this is one of those sample platter songs where if you're on board with it, you can dive right in and feel the music for 3 minutes and perhaps even come out the other side of the experience wishing for more. But if you don't like what this song presents, if you don't like its style, there really is no relief from it for that entire duration. Whether it's the instrumentation, Tornike's vocal style, the somewhat clumsy non-English lyrics, or something else, if there's something you don't like here, it's probably going to hit you pretty hard and drag your enjoyment of the song significantly down as a result. One thing that I can imagine sticking out to some people is, well, I can almost guarantee that this wasn't the intention, but the lyrics kind of come across as a bit of an attack against the Big Five countries. That's almost definitely not what Tornike is going for at all, and I'm not trying to imply that he is, but you could interpret it as, it's English people's fault that you're comparing me to them, it's Italians people's fault that you don't like how I dress, it's Spanish people's fault that you romanticize how they dance rather than celebrating our own culture. If I go too far down the native English speaker guilt rabbit hole, then yeah, it hurts a little, but that's the thing. That's not the goal, that's not the intention, that's not what they want to do. It's not about me, it's about Tornike and his story. That doesn't mean that the song legally cannot hurt you, it's just, be a bit sympathetic if it does bother you. It can sound like an attack depending on your point of view, but it's not meant to be, so reserve your judgment a bit. Something a bit harder to brush off, though, is the actual wording of some of the lyrics. Amongst other things, Italian doesn't really rhyme with Englishman, and if you force it, then it kind of does, but at the cost of sounding really contrived. Similarly, the French, German, Italian, and Spanish lyrics within the song do sound a little bit shoehorned as well. But then again, I could defend that entire point by saying, isn't that kind of the point of the song? The whole song is meant to be a rebellion against the influence of outside cultures taking over aspects of himself. Obviously, it's a metaphor for just him changing anything about himself, but the lyrics is the most accessible way of doing that within a song format. Take him as he is, stop asking him to change, that's the point. But that doesn't stop the fact that people who aren't interested in pursuing the song's higher meaning will find fault with how the lyrics sound. Sometimes it just do be like that. In the here and now, though, because I have given thought to the song's higher meaning, and here I am, let's give this a rating. I promise that this is not the native English speaker guilt that I was talking about before. I'm giving this a personal 10 out of 10. Sincerely, I enjoy the soundscape that this song presents. I like this sort of thing, I really do. Where, you could turn it on, turn it up, and turn yourself into someone who has been lost for a while. And I'm kind of sad it ends as suddenly as it does. I would happily listen to like a full-length album-style cut of this song, and I can't wait to see how it ends up looking on the Eurovision stage. I'm more or less expecting it to miss the mark with most people, so I'm emotionally prepared for disappointment. But this is still a song that I enjoy and am willing to defend. Good on you, Georgia, keep doing your crazy little thing. Technical-wise, it gets a 9 out of 10 from me for similar reasons. It's well structured, well composed, well performed, it has a goal in mind, and it pursues that across multiple levels in a beautifully polyphasic approach. It's sung by someone who has a believable emotional stake in the words, and who can make them come to life on stage in a variety of ways, and it's something that a lot of people are bound to be able to connect to. My only hesitation is that it has to sacrifice some of the lyrical solidarity, I suppose is the word, in the name of pursuing that goal, which gives the impression that the goal of creating a song with this message was held in mind at the expense of all else. Still, I suppose it demonstrates that there is more than a healthy dose of passion there. And with a song that relies on emotional investment, a little passion goes a very long way indeed, so I can't really complain. As for how this stacks up compared to Georgia's history at the contest, yeah, I think it's a slight improvement. It was already good that they changed lanes and started using Georgian Idol as a means of selecting singers. Granted, it's a bit flawed, bearing in mind some people might be swayed to vote for their favourite singer because that's who they want to see at Eurovision, rather than voting for the best vocalist without any outside factors factoring into it in their head. But on the whole, having that sort of competition gives the public a degree of choice over who represents them, and it's a great step to do that, bearing in mind the broadcaster and the judges and whatever are in charge of who that pool of artists is in the first place. What makes this an improvement over last year is that the song choice is now no longer connected to the artist selection show, so now Georgian Idol can focus solely on picking the right artist without having to come to a compromise if the best artist and the best song aren't paired up for the final round. And the winning artist can then go back behind the scenes and produce a song on less of a time constraint that best suits their needs, talents and goals and showcases them and whatever, without having to worry about it also sounding like something that can convince the Georgian public to vote for it. You know, since at Eurovision they're the only people who can't vote for it at the end of the day. This made sense when I wrote it down anyway. And on the note of who can and can't vote for this song, will it qualify? Well, I for one certainly hope so, but I'm not super optimistic to be honest. It's in semi-final 2, which according to most people is the open, fair and fighting chance for all involved semi-final, but the only other country that's likely to fully appreciate Tornike's style is Armenia. Still, the UK votes in semi-final 2, and the UK does tend to be a little bit unpredictable when it comes to our tastes. See the jury votes from 2016 for reference. Georgia, we got you fam. So a qualification isn't out of the question. I just worry that some people might not come to appreciate it in time before the voting closes. I mean, this happened to Romania in 2018, because that got really popular, but not until after it failed to qualify. People were like, we missed a trick by not voting for that one. I hope that doesn't happen here as well. If the staging is as impressive as Georgia has given us in the past, then that should help it quite handsomely. But I won't deny that I'm a bit worried. Still, here's hoping. I am a fan of this song. But what do you lovely people think? Because at the end of the day, I am one person in Europe, and so are you unless you're not in Europe. So, iCard, comments, how do you feel? Let's have a nice friendly conversation. I do wish Georgia the very best, and I hope you do too. So, on that note, to Tornike, to all of Team Georgia, I wish you the very best of luck, and I hope you qualify, but either way, I can't wait to see how you present this in May.